Hello, and thank you for attending this workshop today, Getting Started with AI as a Medical Professional. My name is Greg Gutman, and I'm accompanied by my moderator, Eddie Video. In this workshop, we'll start by going over some of the basics of using AI tools in 2026. And then I'll go over a few different categories of AI tools, going from lower level to higher level tools. And then after that, we'll get into the main part of the workshop, the hands-on experimentation with a few different AI tools. So from my perspective and many others, utilizing AI tools in 2026 is much more of a management skill and not necessarily a tech skill. The AI has become much stronger recently, so it's able to do quite a bit by itself. But if it's going to go off on its own and complete work for you, you need to understand the model's strengths and weaknesses as if it were a real assistant. For example, you wouldn't just hand a 100-page packet to a new intern. Like for the intern and especially the AI, you really need to specify expectations and give a rough outline of what you want the AI agent to complete. And it's still possible to use AI in the wrong place. Each model or each AI app or tool has its own strengths or weaknesses. And it's possible that using the tool might actually slow you down or create worse output. And out of the box, AI is built to please everyone. Companies want the product that will scale and reach as many customers as possible, so they're trying to be as generic as possible to please the most people. Your specialty as a doctor is not the average. So that means you might have to take a little bit different approach to get the results that you're expecting. So specificity is the key. Instead of just saying, I'm a doctor or I want X, be much more specific. Maybe explain your exact specialty, your years of experience, and give it helpful hints on how verbose or concise that you want the AI model to be. Also, recent models have the capacity to store memories and learn about you as you interact with them. So every point that's not quite right in the response of the AI is a chance to give feedback to the AI to kind of adjust the AI's output in the future to what you really want or expect. So just one example of how large language models or AI can fail to answer questions. In this meta-analysis, they found that 23% of the AI's answers to oncology questions contained hallucinations. Personalization doesn't really fix this, and no amount of back and forth will magically make the AI give the correct answer. The key in this situation is to make sure the tool you're using has the ability to do retrieval and verification, or more plainly, like web search or checking documents. So before you use a tool professionally, you really want to know where your data is going to go. You can find out by reading the tool's privacy terms, and that'll explain what it retains, who can see it, where it's stored, and how it will be used. Some of these AI providers are offering free services in order to collect your data to better train their models. And if your work is sensitive, that's typically not okay. And then lastly, you should also read your own company's confidentiality obligations. So a few takeaways. When considering to use AI, you want to think about where AI fits into your workflow, when to trust it, when to skip it entirely. And then when using AI, remember to be specific, state the intended audience, and really explain the problem. The AI doesn't have the context that you have. So next, categories of AI tools. So to start off, AI-assisted coding tools. So these are often what programmers or developers are using. However, these tools are not limited to code. They can also process documents such as text docs, Office documents, even PowerPoint. So their usability is beyond just code now. And then a little bit of a tangent, local media generation. So here's a selection of tools that are used to generate images or video. Maybe the last one, Comfy UI, is one of the most popular and easy to use to generate AI images. And they're starting to get better at producing infographics that can be better utilized professionally than the first more like abstract, creative AI art. Next, AI native app builders. So these might be the lowest barrier of entry in order to make a application by just using English. You can communicate with these services and go back and forth creating an app without ever touching code. Desktop AI copilots. So these are getting more and more popular, such as Claude Cowork or Microsoft Copilot Cowork. These AIs are designed to run on your computer and kind of help you with your day-to-day task. Next, agentic AI platforms. So these are the most hands-off. So you can just kind of give the AI a goal, and the agent plans and executes the task independently and tries to accomplish your goal. The AI might go off for 10 minutes or an hour. They can accomplish quite large tasks now. But for example, OpenClaw, which was in the news, comes with some drawbacks, and it's not perfectly safe. So you have to make sure to use it carefully. Next, I'll briefly introduce the interactive demos that I have planned. The first one is very similar to ChatGPT, but it also has the ability to make files, to collect and organize the information you find along the way when chatting with the AI. The motivation for this demo is that I wanted to make sure that at least one of the demos was unlimited access. So this is something that is running on my own computer, and so you're free to use it as much as you want. And also, it's kind of a showcase of a very small AI model and the ability of something that can run on your own local machine. The second demo that I have planned is using Google's anti-gravity. It's one of the more developer-focused agentic AIs, but the developer-focused tools, I believe, have the most flexibility, and like I mentioned, you don't necessarily have to use them for code. Then the third demo is an AI app builder by Base44. This is the highest level AI tool, and by that I mean that you can just talk with it in English or probably any language, and it will create you a working app which includes the visuals, the logic behind the scenes, and then it can also host and share your app. So you don't really have to learn or worry about any of the specifics about making an app. Okay, now we can get started with the first demonstration, a simple interactive AI. This demo is made to highlight many of the AI considerations that I mentioned in the introduction, but the larger motivation for the tool is actually to better enable everyone to participate. This website with an AI chat is available via a browser, and you can also use it on a smartphone if you happen to not have a computer today. And then also, this AI is hosted on my own personal machine, so There's no limitation for usage and no sign-up cost, so we don't have to worry about that. This AI service is very similar to ChatGPT, but with a few helpful features for guiding prompting, file creation, and saving to help retain your data. And then it also has a very strong preference to verify data via web searches. And that's because it's using a very small AI model. The AI model that I'm running here could probably run on most people's laptops that are attending this today. It uses maybe 4 to 8 gigabytes of memory. The only reason I'm using a larger gaming GPU is in order to serve the AI model to everyone at this event today. So when you initially go to this website, which is venvdesign.com, you'll be greeted with a event code entry box. So just type in Eyecon for that, Eyecon, and then you'll be presented with the main chat interface. So to briefly go over the interface, on the left side, there's a file explorer where we can make new files, folders, rename, delete, and then upload or download text files. The manual operations can be done here, and then many times the AI can also do that for you. And then in the center, there's the main chat interface, chat, and then a split view to see both the chat and the file view, or you can choose just to see the file view. And then on the right-hand side, here is a list of chats that we've created. Right now there's only one, but if I click the new button, it'll add more of them. And then below that, there's a definitions panel, a tailor this answer panel, and about you, which we'll go into more detail later. And then in the top right-hand corner, there's the status of the AI server. So right now it says ready. When it's doing a web search, it might say tool use. And then when it's responding to you, it'll say streaming, which is referring to the creation of words in the response. Let's start off by inserting a prompt that I made previously. So this prompt is not overly specific, so we might edit that later. It says, I want a current picture of how myopia is being managed around the world. Cover prevalence trends, interventions in use, regional approvals, evidence strength. And then I specifically mentioned use web search and citations. So up in the top corner, now it says running tool and then streaming. And it's alternating between tool use, which is the web search, and streaming, the generation of the words. And then once it finishes, it'll start streaming the response back to us. Depending on how many web search the AI agent decides to do, it might be faster or slower. And now that the text is coming back, maybe one detail that I want to mention is that there's occasionally bolded words. And once it finishes, I can show you. So, for example, in this section, there's clinical efficiency. So if I hover over that, it'll turn blue. And if I click it, it'll send a request to the AI model to go and define that term. You can also use this definition feature by right-clicking on any word in the chat. such as elongation, and then click Define. And now it's pulled up axial elongation, so maybe more contextually relevant, and then just define that in the side panel. This is a feature that I thought would help users when they're learning about new topics and may not know all of the vocabulary that the AI responds with. You can quickly define the words without interfering with your main chat workflow. And then now, if we decide that we like this response, maybe we want to save it for future reference. So I sent, please save that in a file. And now it's going to reread that and start to create the file. Which, that was a pretty long message, so it may take a second. So now if we click the file, we'll see the file was created, and it's in a format called Markdown, which is kind of the common format that AI models like to use because it's a very simple way to add formatting. Right here is the raw view. There's Markdown renderers that you can use to get a more beautiful view of it later. And then maybe that file's a bit long, so we might want to request for a highlights. So I asked, make a new file that is a summary of the file that you just made. So go back to file. And then we can see that this one is much shorter. So maybe if you're discussing with someone else, you might not want to send them the giant overview first. It's probably much more courteous to send the highlights first and then follow up with any detailed information after. And now let's ask a new question. So maybe go through here. I don't know, it says there's emerging technologies. So maybe let's ask, how is artificial intelligence being used to solve this problem? Now it's doing web searches and generation again. So now it's created a reasonable response, but maybe we want to modify the response to a different audience. So let's go with target age group. Let's see what happens if we request it being rewritten to explain to a 5-year-old. In this case, that didn't work quite as expected. So let's prompt it directly from the chat interface. So now it's rephrased the summary about using AI for myopia. And we can see that the AI model chose to use many emojis to maybe make it more fun. And then it also used many like metaphors or similes. So like imagine your eyes are like a camera, so that maybe they can better understand the topic. And then also, if we decide that we like some of the files that we've generated, we can go up here and click download, and that'll save them to your local computer. And then just to restate what I said in the beginning, this is something I just created in my free time. So it may not be perfect. If you experience errors, that's probably normal. But I really wanted to make something that everyone could access and that you wouldn't have to worry about any usage limits for this event. So feel free to experiment with this chat interface as much as you would like. It'll be available for a little while after the event too. I haven't quite decided when to take it down. For our next demo, we'll cover a commercial AI tool, Google's anti-gravity. And one thing to note at the start, as of today, April 18th, anti-gravity is free for individuals, and their page states that it has generous weekly rates, which means that your rate or your budget for AI usage resets weekly. And then people with commercial plans will get even higher weekly limits. Anti-gravity fits into the category of AI-powered coding assistants. However, it can be used for far more than just coding, as we will see here. Some of the main strengths of this category of tools are that the AI has access to a folder on your computer, so you can easily retain the data that you find. It has access to top-tier AI models, and you can make reusable workflows, i.e. code usually. So after it solves the problem once, the AI can reuse the code that it made for you again, and you'll get faster results the next time you run it. So to start off, you can go to antigravity.google or search for it, and then you'll be greeted with a download page, and it'll change a little bit depending on your operating system. So go ahead and download it. And then most likely for this AI, it'll prefer to use Python because that's one of the most popular programming languages. I'm sure many of you have already used Python, maybe in research. But if you don't have Python installed, go ahead and download that too and install. Once you install anti-gravity, you can then open it. The first screen that you will be greeted with will have a blue box in the center to select a folder to open. Anti-gravity works within a single folder on your machine and will only have access to that folder by default. I have gone ahead and made a new folder named Eyecon demo and opened that. It's quite similar to the chat application that I made, and that's because I've gotten accustomed to this interface and found it very flexible. On the side, the File Explorer. The center is the window to see typically code, but in our case, maybe we'll be viewing files. And then on the right-hand side is the AI chat, where you can input your prompts, and then you can change between like planning or fast mode. And then there's also a model selector. So we can select between like Gemini Pro High, Pro Low, or other models as well. I've selected Gemini 3.1 Pro Low, as that's one of the leading models, but it's the low thinking model. So we might be able to use this model for longer. Then to start, my plan for this demo is that we will be building a workflow that uses AI to summarize recent publications for us. And most importantly, by using a tool such as anti-gravity, we have the ability to tailor the generated output specifically to our own interest. So in this Explore area, I'll right-click and say New File. And just make a file named interest.txt. Next, we'll create the interest file, which is kind of the key to this workflow and demo. I've created it ahead of time to save time. And one note, when I pasted this in here, I got a bottom scroll bar. So to fix that, you can just go up to View and then select Word Wrap. And that'll make sure you can see everything without horizontal scrolling. And so my file starts off with like a short list section. So specialty topics that I might be interested in, date window, the maximum number of papers, if I want to include preprints or not, preferred sources, and tone. Then next there's a open section for comments that I added. So putting in English comments such as case reports and editorials are fine if they're preferred journals, but push them to the bottom. And then for each paper, I need a title, authors, journal, publication date, and a 1-paragraph summary in plain clinical language, and why it matters for my practice, and a direct link. So this is where you can really customize and tell the model exactly what you want. And then the last line here is defining the output format that we want. So it says, write 2 files into this folder, newsletter.md, the markdown format that I mentioned previously, with a timestamp appended. That way, if we run this multiple times, it's not going to write over our past files. And then also, as kind of a bonus, a log file showing every search that the AI did, if we want to better understand what it did to make this file. Go ahead and save that. And then I've also pre-made a prompt. So in this prompt, it's quite simple because we defined most of the details in the interest file. So it says, read my interest file and build me a weekly research digest. If you need to write any code, put it in a folder in this workspace for reuse. And do not install anything directly to my PC. So the AI, if you let it, it will install stuff to your computer, but it'll notify you before it tries to do that. And then I specified for it to put any code files that it uses inside this folder. That way we can see what it's making and the AI can reuse those in the future. In our case, those files are not specifically for us. It's for the next AI response. So I'll click the blue send button. And this may take a while, so for the demo's sake, I may cut out some of this. But as it's going, we can see it's thinking, and we can click on the thought for 1 second and see what it was thinking about. Or it found our interest.txt file. And now it's gotten back to us with its first command. So right here, it's asking us if it can make a folder. Generally, the commands that anti-gravity will suggest are safe. So as long as you're not on a critical PC, generally it's okay to just click allow. And here it's come back to us with another command. This time it starts with Python 3. So now it's going to use the code file that it made. I'll click allow. And then now we can see it finished. So after these AIs finish, they typically write you a summary about what they did. And then in anti-gravity's case, you can see the files that it's made or edited. So you can actually click on these and review them if you want, or just accept. And even for the newsletter that it created, and the log. So maybe the newsletter is the most interesting for us. So we can click on that, and the open files will be up here, and we can tab through them. If we right-click on the newsletter tab, we'll get a menu, and then we can go down and click Open Preview. And this will render that markdown format into something that looks closer to a PDF. And if you want, the AI can also make you a tool to convert the markdown file into PDFs. So here we can see the weekly medical retina digest based on the specific interest that we mentioned in our interest file. And then just as a sanity check, we can click one of the links and see if it's actually going to the correct paper that it's talking about. So here the title is Visual Acuity and Durability Outcomes. So here we can see that it has linked us to the correct paper, which is very good to hear. Previously, the AIs about 1 year ago would often hallucinate those links, and the links would be to just a completely random paper. AI in the past 6 months has really advanced quite far, and now it's able to really do a lot for us, and pretty reliably. So now maybe we do want to create a PDF file to more easily share it with other people. So we can ask the AI to do this by making a tool to convert the markdown file to a PDF file. And then an extra detail that I don't expect you to know right now. So I'm asking it to create a virtual environment for running the tools that we make. That'll just help make sure that the AI is installing things to this folder and not directly to our computer. And then I said, make a new tool to convert MD files to PDF, then convert our newsletter. So I'll go ahead and send this. And now it's thinking about our request and got back to us. And now it would like to run a Python command. So I'll click allow. And now it's running the command and installing needed things to our current folder and not our machine. And now we are starting to see things. So it made us a Python file, but it also ran into an error. So it says, our servers are experiencing high traffic right now. Please try again in a minute. So this is one of the downsides to using cloud services. So our results are dependent on Google having enough compute to satisfy the request that we send. So I'll go ahead and click retry. And now it's continuing. So it's going to run another command to convert our file. So I'll just click OK. And we got another high traffic error. So just click retry again. And allow again. And now it's continuing to refine its work. So we can see here it just made an edit to its Python file. So maybe in the background, it found a problem and fixed it. Yeah, it's continuing to iterate in the background and refining the tool for us. Another high traffic warning, just click retry. Click allow. And now it's completed the work and made the PDF file for us. So I'll go ahead and click that. And if your file doesn't appear, go over to this extensions panel and you can search for PDF. And then the first result should be VS Code-PDF. Go ahead and install that. It's one of the extensions that is trusted. Or if you don't want to do that, you can just open the PDF in your default PDF editor. In the demo that we just did, a few times I mentioned the concern about running commands on your computer and how that could be a potential risk. In this next demo 3, it's by Base44. It's an AI app builder. In this case, all of the code and generated information is on this company's server. So you don't have to worry about any risk to your own machine, but also you lose a little bit of control over the data. So in this demo, hopefully we're just going to take a quick look at what these fully agentic platforms can do. So ideally, we can just explain our desires in English and iterate back and forth with this software to create the app that we desire. So in order to speed this up a little bit, I've gone and talked to a different AI about a potential problem to solve within Eyecon. Again, since my knowledge is limited, back on the topic of myopia. So I'll paste the chat that I made into this box. So kind of my idea when talking to the AI was to build a small in-office app to visualize different aspects of myopia to help communicate that to the patient. And I specified to build a in-office app and something that's mainly targeted at explaining and not processing patient data, because all of this app and the data that goes to it will be on their server. So you most likely don't want to send any patient data to this company unless you verify the privacy policy on your own. So after pasting in the prompt, I clicked go, and we'll see what happens. So it's starting to talk to us here about the plan, features, model, design, and structure. And it seems like it's already done research beyond my prompt because my prompt didn't include any of these percentages. The time this takes varies based on the problem size. So if it takes too long, I may cut away some of the time that it takes to process. And I'm back. So it's finished writing various code files, and it says it built a self-contained myopia counseling tool. So projected refraction to age 18. So it has patient inputs, so we can enter the age, spherical equivalent, axial length, and if there is myopic parents or not. And then it graphs the refraction projection. Oh, and this is interesting. It's tracking the progression based on no treatment, eye drops, spectral lenses, overnight contact lenses or ortho-K, or red light therapy. I don't know. I'd be curious if any of you know if this data looks correct or if you know it's correct. It has cited sources, so that's promising, but again, please verify if you use these kind of apps. And then, so there's this side panel that we saw all of the writing of files. We can go in and make additional requests. So let's just do something simple. So I typed in, please add a dark mode to the app. And now it has quickly changed it so that we have light mode and dark mode. Changing the color is a pretty simple task, so that was fast. And we didn't actually test it before, so let's do that. Yeah. You can see the numbers changing to the side. Oh, that didn't work. Let's try that again. Maybe 16. And then maybe this seems to be a bug. So we can go in and select the input field. So just telling the AI that when I change the axial length, the graph seems to vanish. And it says the bug is clear. The axial length rejects ranges outside 18 to 32. Except the error message stated a different value. So what if we enter 30? And at least now when we change it, nothing breaks. And then I noticed when I changed that number, the graph didn't seem to change. So I decided to ask, does changing the axial length significantly impact the graph results? And apparently it doesn't. So it's also nice to have the chat to kind of ask about questions that are outside of your expertise, whether that's coding or medical, in this case for me. Yeah. And I didn't mention it before, but this application offers a limited amount of free credits. So please experiment with it if you have time.